What if in Minecraft there was a brand new biome, something rare and beautiful? You're exploring in the world one day and it suddenly opens up into this glorious, colorful, magical area, this forest filled with whimsy and beauty. There's pixie dust and fairies, and you can just feel the magic here. Welcome to my fairy forest. So the first thing I do when I start a new world is I look for the seed that I would like to build on. This particular seed works out perfectly because when I think of the transformation what I want to do, I think that it would fit perfectly in a dark oak forest with all of the colors of the grass going on here. I personally like this little nook going on here, so I think this is where we'll set up. Okay, this is looking way better, and it's a very clean slate for me to get on here and transform now, which is exactly what I needed. I do this mostly when I'm building with new blocks. The older blocks I won't necessarily have to do, but whenever new blocks come out, I tend to forget what we have available, so laying them out like this just helps me visualize it. So now that I know this is a color scheme that I want to use, I think I want to use this in my roof. A color that goes along with that really well is this dark prismarine, which is one of my absolute favorite blocks. I mean, look at that. Look at how well those two are going to blend together. For a little bit of contrast now, I'm throwing in my smooth sandstone, and then everything that I need from here is pretty much just neutrals. Alright, so here's my plan. Pretty bridge right there, walk through the forest, enter the forest right here, have some sort of fancy like gateway I'm imagining here, kind of marked out an area to do a big tree. Then you're walking through here, you've got the fantasy mushrooms around, you have different paths taking you to different areas, you have a cool magical pond, different houses, big structure. This is a really rough plan, but you know what? It gives me some ideas in my head, it gets me thinking about what I want, and now I think it's time to start building. Alright, so I'm just grabbing some of the base blocks from my palette right now, and I think I'm going to start with this entrance house right here, since this seems like quite an important one that you'd see right away. Every time I'm experimenting with a style like this, it does take me a little bit longer to kind of get into the flow of what's going on. The style that I'm going for here is almost very messy, a little bit lower to the ground, and definitely not symmetrical. In order to achieve this, I'm going to start by doing a very basic roof. You know, this is a shape of roof that you've seen me do, I feel like, a million times at this point. I always do this shape of roof. So I'm just marking it out in full blocks, and then I'm going to come back in afterwards and kind of mess it up. For the roof details now, I am going to go, again, very random with this. I'm just stacking this out and curving it around in lots of different shapes, making it basically as whimsical as I possibly can, I feel. Alright, I think this is really cute. I like it so far. It really fits in with the style that I was going for. I think it worked. It obviously needs quite a lot of details, but you know, we generally have the style kind of established, so now we can just kind of rinse and repeat for all of the different shapes. So when I asked for a little bit of advice on this build, what I got was actually interesting. Changing the andesite out to granite. I normally go with this cooler gray, but the granite really just, it does fit in a lot better with that mushroom. Like, I think that works. Now, obviously we'd have to figure out some sort of kind of dividing detail there in some way. So this is the color scheme that it kind of changes to, right? So now coming off of our mushroom, we can have these color blocks. Then we can use things like brick. We can use this polished granite. And yeah, I think that fits our palette so much better. So I'll definitely be making some changes to incorporate this sort of warmer tones into what we're doing here. I've successfully taken the style from these two houses and applied it to a few other structures. I particularly like this circle kind of gazebo one that I've got here. It kind of reminds me of butterflies, which I really enjoy. I've of course got this diagonal one over here, this one with the tower, and this simple smaller one. I may add a few others, but this is kind of the general idea of the village. Up here, where I want like the peak of my little fairy village to be, I have this larger circle structure. Now for this, I want this to be like the main sort of town hall. So I want to expand this to be more than just a circle. I don't want it to be just a gazebo like that structure there. Alright, now that this is marked in, I'm going to add a few other structures. The first one I'm going to add is a tower in the back, and then in the front, for sort of a grand entrance, I'm going to do like a sort of house shape, kind of like we have there. Just a rectangle with a triangle attached, but just as a front area here. I think that'll look really good. Alright, so this is a pretty good start, I think, but it definitely needs more layers. It needs something over on this side to kind of balance that out, and I think I'd also like to do some sort of maybe smaller tower coming out of this. Maybe something similar to that? Alright, so I've added this sort of second little hut down here, but it looks a little odd to me, so I'm gonna kind of finish off the connection here by just adding sort of a tower right in this spot. I'm having a lot of fun adding in all of these different details, getting to kind of move the roof around, do different styles, kind of change it in different directions. I think it ends up looking really cute when you're able to do fun stuff like that. Okay, with most of the main structures that I want marked in, I think it's time to move on to the next most important thing, which is going to be the organics. So in a dark oak forest, normally we have all of these mushrooms kind of scattered around. And I want to stick with this theme, but I want to make it a lot more fantasy and colorful and bright to kind of go with what we're doing here. So let's knock these down and build our own. The fun thing about building these mushrooms is you truly can pick pretty much any block. It's a great opportunity to use blocks that you haven't used before. I'm gonna try to make a kind of crimson edged one right now, just kind of see how it looks. Have a pop of purple maybe right here in the corner of this one. I start by just building myself up a nice thick stem to go off of. Then I'm going to start shaping it with my main block, not worrying about any of the details or colors or anything until I have this main shape marked in. It is a mushroom, so me worrying about perfection here is going to be silly. I'm just going to try to get some sort of rough shape in, and I'll play with it until I get something that I like. Now, once I have a shape that I'm happy with, I'm going to add some kind of depth and detail to the edge by almost doing the same thing that we did with these houses. I'm going to go all around the rim with some slabs, kind of all at different heights. Lots of variation here, pretty random shapes, and hopefully this will give it a cute and unique look. There we have it, our first mushroom. So this is going to be kind of the thing that I do all around this village. We're going to have lots of cute custom trees and then lots of these big fancy fairy mushrooms. I think they're going to look great in the end. We can maybe even hang some fences off of this, hang lanterns off of them. There's so many options. With the new nether blocks, we also have the option to use this, what is this called? The Nylium down in the grass here in another spot, and just kind of sprinkling it in around with the grass. And then using these twisted vines because they give such a good fantasy look, I think. Oh my gosh, this just makes me so happy. And of course we can scatter it in with these different plants and then have some regular overworld flowers in there as well. Yes, that is the exact type of atmosphere I'm looking for here. So now all I have to do is continue to repeat it until I have filled in this whole forest. I'll bring you guys back when I have more progress. Everyone, I think it is time that we tour this build. I've spent so much time on the little details around here, and I think it would be best suited to an in-person tour. The skin is inspired by a warped mushroom, and it is by Rowling, who is one of the amazing people who helped give me advice and help out with this build, along with the lovely Romer. Now, let's get started on this tour. So, starting off in this plains biome right at the entrance, as you can see, I've done lots of my own big custom trees and mushrooms all around here. All of these houses now have their own different characters, and there's so many little details and plants all around. I've got this moon-shaped lamp right at the entrance, and there's one in through there that we can walk towards. Let's enter, shall we? Oh my goodness, I just feel like there's so much to take in here. When I first saw these different blocks and plants that we could get with the new Nether update, I was so excited, and this is the exact sort of build that I had in mind when I thought of that. I mean, there's just so much potential here, so many new colors, so much atmosphere that can be added to a build now. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Of course, these houses do have interior. This one, for example, has lots of different plants on the inside. We have a little soulfire camp over here. I've used a lot of this soulfire and this general kind of cyan color throughout this entire build, and I really like it. Kind of bits of the nether kind of peeking through, really giving me that fantasy vibe that I was looking for. Like, you can really get a feel for this entire village just as you're walking through. I can almost imagine the people who would live here. Maybe the children are playing and finding different pixies or fairies all throughout, and there's magic in the air and you can perform different magical spells, and it's beautiful. Let's head inside this building here. So this is the house of someone who's been doing a little bit of mining in their basement, and they've broken into this beautiful cave. So this is how I imagine this entire biome to be. The caves are also taken over with this fungi, these different warped plants that we have all around. There's a feeling of magic in the air around here. Let's walk back outside now. Oh, the sun is blinding. Look at those rays. Of course, they have a little well over here. How else would they get their water? And a beautiful pond on this side. There is a beautiful little swing under the mushroom that we can swing on, and a fairy ring next to their bigger house. There's fungus growing throughout on the trees, and just so many pops of color throughout this entire place. Lots of these different rocks and shrubs all throughout, completely adding to the vibe for sure. Over here we have one of these rocks that kind of peeks down into the interior of this house. Let's go explore it. So popping down here we have this little, again, one of these little caves, this little sort of workstation, and up here you can go to sleep, and you may have some rain coming in on you because there's a rock there that's kind of a little bit open. I really like the entire vibe of this area. It's so unique, and I really wish that there was something like this in Minecraft itself. I know that Minecraft would never put anything this detailed in, but I wish there was a fantasy biome. I wish there was a biome focused around this sort of fantasy vibe with more color, maybe pixies or even fireflies in the atmosphere. Something. I just like the feeling of magic. Hello, sheep. Let's head inside now to this big main building here that's been just completely taken over by this fungus. Look at all of the colors around here. I mean, these mushrooms are a great way to just add any sort of pop of color all around here. We can explore this entire building heading up into the tower here. We have the little bridge that comes across this way, and then we can continue our way up, and we have some bedrooms up here. This is the first room, of course, once again just taken over by the greenery. I feel if this is where I lived, this is where I'd want to be. I mean, this is like my dream bedroom. It's perfect. There is another bedroom upstairs, but for now, let's head back down. I would just absolutely love to be able to live here forever. This is the exact sort of vibe that I want, and this is what I imagined when the 1.16 update came out. Different details like this, different mushrooms, different fungus, just a fantasy biome. I think it would be fantastic to have, and there's so much that can be imagined here beyond even just this little village. I mean, this is just a taste of what is possible. Anyways, everyone, I think that is all for me. I hope that you've gotten some inspiration out of this build, because I certainly had so much fun exploring, detailing, and building it. It was lovely, and it's one of my favorite builds I think I've ever done. The pops of color, the fantasy aspects, I just can't get enough. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, please hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more, and give me a like on this video to tell me that you liked it. I hope I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye, everyone!